This is a short video tutorial on the CV element of the module IT skills. The first thing I want to do is just open this document that I have here, which is one that I've made earlier, and I'm going to work from that a little bit onto a new document. So I'm going to take you from step one. So the first thing we need to do is open up Word. It may be on the dock down here, that W, see Microsoft Word. If it's not there, go to the spotlight and type in WORD Word. Go to the applications, which is where the software is, and double click it. And the menu up here changes and you'll see Word. So first thing we're going to do is do File, New Blank Document. And this opens up a document for us that's here in the blank page. So I'm going to put my insertion point on the page, and I'm ready to type. Now the first thing is that I can only type between that blue section in here. So it makes the page very narrow. So I'm just going to go into Layout, click it, Margins, click, and Narrow, and click Narrow. And you can see there that that blue space has gotten more narrow and the page has gotten bigger. So I'm just going to move that over a little bit so I can see it while I'm working on the two documents. So put the insertion point in there, and I type curriculum vitae. Then in brackets put CV. Now, sorry, I missed the bracket there. Okay. Give it a bit of space and correct that typo. Now, in order to make text bigger or smaller, I select that. I go into Home here, and I can make it bold, make it as big as I want. The important thing in this case is once you select the text, don't change it. So keep the same text all the way through the document so that the document is consistent. Now there are lots of ways to format the document. The way that I find the easiest and the way I'm going to show you is in the case where we have double columns here and double columns here, I'm going to use what's called a table. And if I go across from Home, Layout, Document Elements, I have a different menu here, and if I click on that, it opens up this new menu. I go New, and I pick two boxes for my table, and they come out like so. So instead of typing in, to make it faster, I'm just going to copy and paste. No, I'm not going to copy and paste. But, all right, I'd have to bring that back up in order to do that. Okay, I can do it. So I copy and paste in there. And I select this, and I copy and paste. Now in this case, you can see that the text is formatting, and it's being kept straight by these lines. Now outside of that box, I want to type personal details. So that box keeps everything in check and it makes it very easy. So I just type in here, type in there. Now, I may not want that box to be left there. If I don't, I click on it there. It selects, make sure that it's all blue. If it's not all blue, just drag across. And I go to Borders and None. And that's deleted. I bring my line down. Now, if I want to draw a line all across the page, to separate that from the next section, I go into Borders and I go to Top, and it just gives me a one line like that. And so that allows me to then start off the next section, which would probably be education. In this case it is. I go back up, I draw another two boxes. Now this time I'm going to type in so you can see what it's like. So I select that, brings it down. What college did I go to? You could have school. I'm not actually putting in real information in here. So I'm just putting in information to show you how it would go down. So if I want to put in a bullet point, I go to home, go up here, sorry, format, bullets, and I select on one of these boxes and I do that. And that puts in a bullet. So now every time I click return, it's going to give me another bullet point. So and so on. Now I can continue that down, make a new section here going back in time. Sorry about that. All right, etc. So I can have the various columns. What college did I go to? And then I click on this and I go into this little box and tell none. And then that's gone away. I've got a line there. Okay, so essentially I just keep going like that until I type in all my information. I'm not going to do the whole document. The next thing that I want to show you is that if you're inserting photographs into a Word document, and it may be unusual to insert it into a CV, but occasionally you may want to put images in if you were applying to a gallery or something like that, or you were applying for an exhibition where they wanted to see images as part of text. So you also need to put them into essays, and I find that they jump around quite a lot. So if I wanted to put two images together, here's how I would go about it. So I would go back to tables. I would go in here. Now, depending on how many images I'm going to use, I would select the boxes appropriately. In this case, for two images, I would pick 12 boxes. That may seem like a lot, but you'll see what happens. So I click the insertion point in the middle box on the top, insert, photo, picture from file. This brings me up to this dialog box. I'm going to look for my memory stick, which is called Catwoman here. I click that, Kevin's demos, so I'm finding the file. I'm looking for an image, then I'm going to insert. So I'm just going to insert this image. Now, in your case, it would be images of your work. I'm just going to bring that down onto that page for the moment. I'm going to click on the third box down in the center, insert, photo, picture from file, demos, pick a different image. Okay. So I now have the two images together with a space between them. And I'm going to put in just image title 1, maybe the size of the image, because that's a good thing usually to have. And I want to center that, so I select it and I go in here and it just centers that for me. If I put the insertion point there and I click the return button, which is the middle button on the right hand side with the backward arrow, and then that gives me a little bit of space around the text, and then I do image 2 and size, sorry, image title I want, size 2, again it's 100 by 200, and I select it, sorry about that, again, select it and put it into the middle. Put my insertion point just before the first word, click return, after the last one, click return. So that would be a good way of laying it out. I select that, if it's selected everything, then I go to tables and none. Okay, so it wasn't all selected. So I go like this, and I go back and select none, and it'll all go away. Now, when you have your document with all its information inserted into it, the kind of things you would need is the experience, work experience, perhaps. Every CV would be different and tailored differently for a different scenario. So put in the information if you've been in exhibitions, if you've got experience. If you haven't worked a lot, but you might put in the key skills that you have. For example, if you have word processing skills, if you have Photoshop skills, camera skills, you might put down any of these skills. Now, the last thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to reduce this file down and save it. Well, to save the file first. So we need to save it twice. The first time we want to save it is if we were going to print it out. And how we would do that is File, Save As, Curriculum Vitae Print, I'm going to call it. And I'm going to just put it on the desktop so we can find it easily. And then I'm going to save it again. But then before I save it the second time, I want to reduce these images. And how I do that is I click on that, double click it. It brings me up this menu here. There's compress there. Click on compress, drop down best for sending an email, because you're going to send this to me as smaller than a 2 megabyte document. Pick that photograph, go in there and say email 96. Now one more thing before we save it, go File, Reduce File Size, and this reduces the overall file. And again I say for email. Okay, sorry, I didn't watch where I was saving that to, so I'll just save that as. So I put it on the desktop and call it Curriculum Vitae Email. So I have two copies of it now. One is Curriculum Vitae Print, one is email. So I want to find out what size they are. So I click on the print one. Now, there's different ways to do this. The easiest way, I think, for now is File, Get Info, and see it's 119 kilobytes, and that's quite small. So it may not have made much of a difference to this. In fact, I think maybe I saved that again. Okay, so 111 kilobytes. Now there's not much of a difference in the size between those, but if this was a very big file, you would see a huge difference. There's over 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte, so this is very, very small and well under our 2 megs. So then you email that to me as is detailed in the handout, which I've given people in the class and will email to you now. So that's the end of this tutorial. Thanks for watching.